Eternal God, we come before you surrounded by members of our community. With them, we share our happiness and it becomes greater. Our troubles and they become smaller. May we never be too mean to give nor too proud to receive. For in giving and receiving, we discover you and begin to understand the meaning of life. Let us not separate ourselves from the true strength of our community, the experience and wisdom of old people, the hopes of the young, and the examples of care and courage which sustain us. Give us an open mind and a generous heart to welcome those who need us and to admit your presence into our daily life. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe, for the strength that comes to us through our community. We should revere God in all that we do, privately as well as publicly, acknowledge the truth and speak it in our hearts. Ribon kol ha'olamim, lo al tzidkotenu anachnu matilim, tachanunenu lefanecha, rachamecha harabim, ma anachnu, me chayenu, me chastenu, ma yeshuatenu, ma tzidkenu, ma kolchenu, ma gevuratenu, Ma nomar lefanecha, Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu. Alo kol hagiburim ka'ayin lefanecha, va'anshei Hashem kalo hayu, v'hachamim kibli magda, umbonim kibli haskel, ki rov ma'aseh tohu, bimei chayenu, hevel lefanecha, umartar ha'adam min habehema ayin, ki hakol havel. Nevertheless, we are your people, children of your covenant and called to your service. Therefore it is right that we should thank and praise you, to proclaim your holiness and daily sing before you. Command the world came to be. We praise you, our God, sovereign of the universe, worshipped by your people, lauded and glorified by those who love and serve you. Songs of praise, we extol you and proclaim your sovereignty, sole source of the life of all worlds. We praise you, sovereign God, to whom all praise is due. At dawn and dusk I seek you, reach out and look to you. With soul athirst I yearn for you. I am a beggar at your door. The galaxies cannot contain you, yet you dwell in my inmost being. I hold your glory in my heart. My love for you exceeds my speech. So I will praise your name, Eternal One, as long as your breath of life remains within me. Praise be the Eternal One forever. Amen. Amen. Praise be the Eternal God, the God of Israel, who does wonderful things. Let God's glorious name be praised forever, and let the whole earth be filled with God's glory. Amen and amen. Aloha kol briot, Adon kol toladot, V'lo barov hatishmachot, Amenaheg olamo b'chesed uvriotav barachamim, V'chalavadecha, anachnu elohim. Yet though our mouths should overflow with song as the sea, our tongues with exultation as the roaring waves, and our lips with praise as heaven's wide expanse, and though our eyes shine as the sun and moon, our arms spread forth like the wings of eagles, and our feet speed swiftly as hinds, still we could not fully thank you, eternal God, for your infinite kindness to our ancestors and to us. Therefore the limbs you have formed in us, the spirit you have breathed into us, and the tongue you have set in our mouths, all shall unite to thank and praise, extol you and exalt you, sovereign God. Every mouth shall thank you, every tongue bear witness to you, every knee shall bend to you, every body bow down to you, every heart shall revere you, and every fiber of our being shall sing your praise. For so it is written, all my bones shall say, who is like you, eternal one? Therefore we extol you and proclaim your glory, and praise your holy name, as it is said, praise the eternal one, O my soul, let all that is within me praise God's holy name. Yishtabach Shimcha La'ad Malkeinu, Ha'el HaMelech HaKadosh B'Shamayim V'Aretz, Ki Lecha Na'eh Adonai Eloheinu V'Elohei Avoteinu, Asher Ushbacha, Halel V'Zimra, Brachot V'Hodaot, Me'ata V'Ad Olam, Baruch Atah Adonai, Abocher B'Sirei Simra. And let's turn over to page 135, towards the bottom of the page. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach. Please be seated. We praise you, eternal one, our God, sovereign of the universe. Maker maker of light and creator of darkness, author of peace and creator of all things. In your mercy you give light to the earth and all that is on it. And in your goodness you renew creation continually day by day. How manifold are your works, O God. With wisdom have you made them all. The world is full of your creations. Your handiwork proclaims your praise. The radiant stars bear witness to your glory.
We praise you, O God, creator of light.
Ahavad Rabbah, Ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu. Chemla Gedola B'Teirach Amata Aleinu. Avinu Malkeinu. Ba'avor Avotenu Shebachu V'cha. Atlandeim Chukei Chayim. Ken Tichonenu B'Pandenu. Attend Livenu Labinu Lahaskil Lishmoa. Lilmod Ulamed. Lishmor V'La'asot. Ukayim Ekol Divrei Torah Techa. Ha'erenenu V'Torah Techa. V'dabek Livenu V'Mitzvotecha. Yached Levavenu Lahava U'Yira Et Shemecha. Kivanu V'Acharta V'Yachedecha B'Hava.
Baruch atah Adonai,
Abocher V'Amo Yisrael B'Hava. And please stand. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadrarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha v'leftecha b'derech v'shachbecha uv'kunecha v'shartam la'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotachot b'neinecha v'tatam al mezuzot beitecha v'visharecha. Please be seated. Sound, established, and enduring are these words, now and forever. True it is, eternal one, that you are our sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of our ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly, you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then with great joy, Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song.
Oh,
Please stand. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor V'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasodim Tovim, Bekonei Hakol, V'zocher Chastei Avot Ve'imahot, U'mevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shmo V'Yahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, V'chaim Etim Atah Rav L'Hoshia, Mashiv HaRuach U'Moriv HaGeshem, Mazriach HaShemesh U'Moriv HaTal, V'chalkel Chaim B'Chesed, V'chaim Etim B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, U'Matir Asurim, U'Mkayim Emunato L'Shenei Afar, Mi Chamocha Ba'al Giburot, U'mi Domelach, Melech Me'mitum Chaye U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman Atalah Chayot Meitim, Baruch Atah Adonai, Michaye HaMeitim. We sanctify your name on earth. As in the prophet's vision, the hosts of heaven sing your praise above, for so it is written.
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, Melech haaretz v'ha'olam.
Kavodo Malei Olam.
Baruch Adonai,
Imkomach Elokeinu, Tofia, V'timloch Aleinu, Ki mechakim anachnu lach.
Imloch Adonai le'olam, Elohai Zion, V'edor Hallelujah.
From generation to generation we will make known your greatness. To the end of time we will proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O our God, shall never depart from our lips. We praise you, eternal one, holy God. Let's be seated. You inspired our ancestors to hallow this day for your service. When upon its coming we pause to contemplate our life, we learn in you that we do not live by bread alone, but also by the spiritual nourishment we receive when we open ourselves to your influence. We thank you for the Sabbath day and for the opportunity it offers to enhance the quality of our lives. We thank you for its joy and for its peace. May our worship help us to take into our hearts its message of holiness. Consecrate all our days by devotion to what is true, beautiful, and good. May our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us by your commandments and make us loyal to your teaching. Satisfy us with your goodness. Gladden us with your salvation. And purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal one, let the holiness of your Sabbath enter our hearts. And may all Israel who hallow your name be exalted by its peace. We praise you, O God, for the holiness of the Sabbath. Eternal God, be gracious to your people Israel, and in your love accept their prayers. May our worship now and always be acceptable in your sight. We praise you, God, and alone we worship in reverence. Modim anachnu lach, sha'atahu Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu le'olam va'ed. Sur chayenu magen yishenu, atahu l'dor hador, nodeh lecha u'saper tilatecha, al chayim ha'mezurim bi'adecha, Val nishmotenu ha'pekah, V'al nisecha shebechol yom imanu, Val niflotecha v'tovatecha, Shebechol eideh ba'boker v'tzomarayim, Baruch atah Adonai, Hatov shimcha v'lechar na'el ha'hodot, Sim shalom tova uvracha, Chen v'chesed v'rachamim, Aleinu v'yol kol Yisrael amecha, Baruchenu aminu, Kulanu ka'echad v'or panecha, Ki v'or panecha natata lanu Adonai Eloheinu, Torat chayim, v'havat chesed, Tzedakah uvracha v'rachamim v'chayim v'shalom, V'tov v'einecha levarech et amecha Yisrael, et kol ha'amim, v'chol eit u'v'chol sha'a b'shlomecha, Baruch atah Adonai, Oseh Shalom. Turn over to page 481 for our Torah service. There is none like you, eternal one among the God's people. Worship, and there are no deeds like yours. Your sovereignty is everlasting. Your reign endures from age to age. Eternal one, you reign, you have reigned, you will reign forever. Eternal God, give strength to your people. Eternal God, bless your people with peace. Please stand.
Adonai,
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Eternal One is our God, the Eternal God is Roma Mashma Yachdav. Let us magnify the Eternal One. Together, let us exalt God's name. Please be seated, everybody. And so we begin the book of Numbers. And we left, obviously, the book of Leviticus behind last week. Some of you may have felt a sense of relief after all of the ritual bits. We managed to stay mostly vegetarian this time around. But I recall recently that there was a great challenge. The challenge was, if you behave ethically, if you follow God's commands, and embrace, let's call it holy actions based on justice, mercy, compassion, kindness, your habitation of the land will be okay. And we admitted that there's we can't consider this to be a cause and effect situation because there aren't guarantees. But we do know that if you don't follow things like justice and mercy and compassion, especially towards the vulnerable, things will surely go wrong eventually. And that warning is rather prescient, because what we have in the book of Numbers is, well, bad times to come. And if we regard this as literature, we see that there are acute political tensions and isolated leadership that somehow wants to embrace great change, but as we'll hear today, relies on the same old machers, the same old big shots. And so there's a problem there. And there are various people that would like to be big shots, but are shut out. Eventually they're going to lead the most ferocious rebellion. But in all of this, thousands and thousands of people are killed. And like in so many other times of rapid and radical change, let's say, we could consider this to be a paradigm for a kind of revolution, as scholar Michael Walzer terms it. What about all those thousands of people who were killed? Surely they all couldn't have been guilty. What about them? And the text says that it was done in the name of God. Well, how many dictators and how many regimes and how many authorities have said what they were doing over the centuries was in the name of God or some higher power justification? So we raise these kinds of questions. We interrogate the text. There are no easy answers. But I think what is so valuable about this, I hope, is somehow the sense that we're not quite alone in the turmoil that we face these days. As a would-be Korach lands on our shores soon and tries to engage with the other, let's call them Korachim. and this is what people do. But, and in times of struggle, we may feel quite alone as individuals, as a community. And I'll refer to those feelings of aloneness and loneliness in my remarks later. But this is challenging stuff. And the truth is that society is totally challenging. And there are no easy answers. So, Numbers, chapter 1, verses 1 through 19. In the JPSA one, it's on page 203, 203. In the Sanchino Chumash, it's on page 793, 203 and 793.
Do you mind just saying the chapter again?
Chapter 1, verses 1 through 19.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natatam lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai notei ha'torah.
On the first day of the second month, on the second year following the exodus from the land of Egypt, the Lord spoke to Moses in the wilderness of Sinai in the tent of meeting, saying, "Take a census of the whole Israelite community by the clans of its ancestral houses, listing the names, every male, head by head. You and Aaron shall record them by their groups, from the age of 20 years and up, all those in Israel who are able to bear arms. Associated with you shall be a man from each tribe, each one the head of his ancestral house. These are the names of the men who shall assist you. From Reuben, Elitzur, son of Sheduor. From Simeon, Shlumiel, son of Zerushadai. From Judah, Nachshon, son of Aminadab. From Issachar, Netanel, son of Tzuar. From Zebulun, Eliab, son of Helon. From the sons of Joseph. From Ephraim, Elishama, son of Amihud. From Manasseh, Gamliel, son of Pedatsur. From Benjamin, Abidan, son of Gideoni. From Dan, Ahiezer, son of Amishadai. From Asher, Pagiel, son of Ophran. From Gad, Elisaph, son of Deuel. From Naphtali, Ahira, son of Enan. Those are the elected of the assembly, the chieftains of their ancestral tribes. They are the heads of the contingents of Israel. So Moses and Aaron took those men who were designated by name, and on the first day of the second month they convoked the whole community, who were registered by the clans of their ancestral houses, the names of those aged 20 years and over being listed head by head. As the Lord had commanded Moses, so he recorded them in the wilderness of Sinai. V'yedaber Adonai el Moshe b'midbar Sinai, b'ohel moed, v'chad lachodesh hasheni, hashana, hashenit, v'tzeitam me'eretz Mitzrayim, le'mor. Sa'u et rosh kol adat b'nei Yisrael, le'mishpachotam, le'veit avotam, b'mispar shemot kol zachar, le'gugalotam, m'ben esrim shana, v'ma'alav, kol yotzei tzava b'Yisrael tivkadu, botam. Sibotam. Atav Aharon, Itchem Yihiyu Ish Lamateh, Ish Rosh Leveit Avotam, Hu, Ve'ela Shemot Hanashim Asher Ya'amdu Itchem. Reuven, Elitzur ben Sedeur, Shimon, Shlumiel ben Suri Shaddai, Yehuda Nachshon ben Aminadav, Yisachar Netanel ben Suar, Lizvulun Eliav ben Chelon, Livnei Yosef, Ephraim Elishama ben Amihud, the Menashe Gamliel ben Pedatsur, the Benjamin Abidan ben Gideoni, the Dan Achiezer ben Amishadai, the Asher Pagiel ben Okram, the Gad Eliasaph ben Deuel, the Naphtali Achira ben Enam, Ele Kriye Haeda Nisiye Matot Avotam, Roshei Alfei Yisrael, Hem, Yikach Moshe v'Haron et Hanashim Ha'ele, Asher Nikvu B'Shemot Ve'et Kol Ha'eda Hikilu Be'echad B'Chodesh, Hasheni, Yitjaldu Al Mishpachotam Leveit Avotam B'Mispar Shemot Iben Esrim Shana B'Ma'ala L'Gugulotam, Kasher Tziva Adonai et Moshe, Yivkadein B'Midbar Sinai.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam letah b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai, notei haTorah.
Please stand, everybody.
Baruch shenatan Torah le'amor Yisrael.
Please be seated, everybody.
The Haftarah this morning is taken from Hosea, chapter 2, verses 1 to 3, and then chapter 2, verses 18 to 25. It can be found in the JPS Tanakh on page 981 to 984, and in the Sonshino Humish on page 810. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar b'nevi'im tovim v'ratzah v'divreihem hane'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai haboher b'torah u'b'moshe avdav u'vish Yisrael amod u'v'navi'ei ha'emet b'sedek. The number of the people of Israel should be like that of the sands of the sea, which cannot be measured or counted. And instead of being told, "You are not my people," they should be called children of the living God. The people of Judah and the people of Israel shall assemble together, and appoint one head over them, and they shall rise from the ground. For marvellous shall be the day of Jezreel. O call your brothers my people, and your sisters lovingly accepted. And in that day you will call me Bishal, and no more will you call me Baali, for I will remove the names of the Baalim from her mouth, and they shall never more be mentioned by name. In that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, the birds of the air, and the creeping things of the ground. I will also banish bow, sword, and war from the land. Thus I will let them lie down in safety, and I will espouse you forever. I will espouse you with righteousness and justice, and with goodness and mercy, and I will espouse you with faithfulness. Then you shall be devoted to the Lord. In that day I will respond, declares the Lord. I will respond to the sky, and it shall respond to the earth, and the earth shall respond with new grain and wine and oil, and they shall respond to Jezreel. I will sow her in the land as my own, and take no Ruhamah back in favour, and I will say, Lo Ami, you are my God, and he will respond, you are my God. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, zu kol ha'olomim, tzadik, v'kol ha'dorot, ha'el ha'ne'eman, ha'omer v'oseh, ha'medaber v'mekayim shekol divrei emet v'tzedek. Al ha'torah, v'al ha'avodah, v'al ha'amovim, v'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh, שנתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה וליומנוה להורו ולתפארת. על הכל אדוני אלוהינו אנחנו מודים לו ומברכים עשה ישבח שמך בפי כל חי תמיד יעלם בעת. ברוך אתה אדוני הקדוש השבת.
Page 484. We have a volunteer to read the paragraph concerning the royal family or the leaders. Harry?
It's concerning the royal family. Yes. Eternal God. Yes. Eternal God, whose dominion embraces the universe, we ask your blessing for our sovereign lady, Queen Elizabeth, and all the royal family, for those who govern our country and all who influence the quality of its national life. Make them conscious of their responsibility and teach them to exercise it in accordance with your will. May we all help to fashion in this country a society that excels in freedom and justice, tolerance and compassion, so that it may be a force for righteousness and peace in the life of humanity.
And the paragraph concerning
Adrian.
thank you.
Eternal God, as you blessed our ancestors in generations past, bless now this congregation, its leaders and its members, all who enter this synagogue to meet, to study and to pray. Comfort the sorrowing hearts among us, and heal those in anxiety or pain. May we all find here community and friendship, renewal of purpose and hope, a deeper understanding of our heritage, and a sense of your abiding presence. Bless all congregations of the House of Israel throughout the world, that those who live under oppressive rule still be free, and may we all unite to witness to your truth and do your will.
And this week we think of Mike Solomon. We hope that he continues to gather strength. And we also wish Ruth Eva Fiegel better. She's in hospital this weekend getting some tests. And also Vic Golding, who had a fall, but as far as I know, he's home and he's gathering strength. Would anyone like to mention the name of
My cousins, my cousins Nikki and her husband Mel.
My cousin Janet Turner.
Our friend Michelle Singer from downstairs had a serious operation. She's recovering.
Yes.
Michelle. Yes.
And she's recovering. It appears that so far that the operation was a great success. And the prayer for the state of Israel. Thank you, Stephen.
Eternal God, our rock and redeemer, grant blessing to the state of Israel, created to fulfill an age-old dream and to be a haven for the oppressed. Inspire its leaders and citizens with faithfulness to the aims of its founders, to develop the land for the benefit of all its inhabitants, and to implement the prophetic ideals of liberty and justice. May they live in harmony with one another and in peace with their neighbours, and cause to come true once more the ancient vision that out of Zion shall go forth Torah and the word of God from Jerusalem.
Hallelujah, Shem Adonai Ki Niskav Shemo Levado. Let us praise the Eternal One, whose name alone is exalted.
Shalom.
teaching is perfect.
Reviving the soul.
God's word is unfailing.
Making wise the simple.
God's precepts are right.
Delighting the mind.
God's commandments are clear.
Enlightening the eyes.
God's doctrine is pure.
Enduring forever.
God's guidance is true.
And altogether just.
Behold, a good doctrine has been given you. Do not forsake it. It is a tree of life to those who hold it fast, and all who cling to it find happiness. Its ways are ways of pleasantness, and all its paths are peace. So within this maelstrom of bitter political activity, whether you are an embattled leader or a follower or someone who's perhaps on the perimeter, a little bit apathetic, one of the themes that comes through this reading this morning is that of loneliness. Aloneness, solitariness. And we'll know soon, we'll read again soon, that Moses and Aaron indeed are quite isolated. And we can infer that the turmoil itself is the result in so many ways of the anxiety, the loneliness, the terror, the aggression of a mass of people trying to make their way to something they don't know at all, and away from trauma that hasn't even begun to heal. And in that sense also, this text is let's call it in a way a blueprint for so much in the way of human history since then. Very recently, I've just finished a book about a part of the world I really know nothing about, that of South Korea. And this book, Human Acts, by Han Kang, won the Booker Prize last year. And it was recommended to me by a friend. I don't know, has anybody read this book? It's absolutely devastating. And in the late 70s and early 80s, in South Korea, never mind North Korea, but South Korea was the scene of uprisings and military dictatorship and mass murder. And this book tells the story of the student protesters, high school students, college students who were gunned down and buried in mass graves by the regime. And it's something I really wasn't aware of. Maybe I was brainwashed at the time, or brainwashed to the extent that, let's say, those that are allies to the West, we don't hear about this stuff. So if we don't know about it, how can it exist? And this book details, from the standpoint of several young people, both female and male, as opposed to the text that we had today, which was quite male-oriented, what was going on exactly at the time and what has happened afterwards. And indeed, loneliness, isolation, mourning is a tremendous aspect of what happened after these events. And perhaps even more important is the search, the struggle to find some sense of meaning and memory and purpose in the aftermath. Loneliness is bad enough. Solitariness, if one doesn't want it, is bad enough. But perhaps a lack of a sense of meaning and purpose might even be worse. And indeed, for so many people today, that permeates our society. I wanted to share with you two short passages from this book, and which illustrate that struggle to make meaning. We could argue that the definition of faith is the ability to somehow make meaning. Not find meaning, but make meaning out of one's struggles. And the first passage, if I can find it, is actually about a spirit. And it's the spirit of one of the people who's been murdered. And the spirit rises out of the body and floats. And that spirit tries to find some sense of meaning. And I found this bit so utterly challenging for so many reasons. We don't tend to think of those things. We're rational. But also, to think about the murders given our history is pretty tough stuff, and what's going on in the heads of those who were afflicted. And I just want to find that bit. Then the second passage I'm going to read has to do with a woman who survived and what happened much later in terms of her coming to terms with the memory. I no longer felt 15. 35, 45, these numbers came in turn to feel somehow insufficient. Not even 65, no, nor 75 seemed to encompass what I was. I wasn't Jean Day anymore, the runt of the year. I wasn't Park Jean Day, whose ideas of love and fear were both bound up in the figure of his sister. A strange violence welled up within me, not spurred by the fact of my death, but simply because of the thoughts that wouldn't stop tearing through me, the things I needed to know. Who killed me, and who killed my sister, and why? The more of myself I devoted to these questions, the firmer this new strength within me became. The ceaseless flow of blood that flowed from a place without eyes or cheeks, dark and thickened into a viscous treacle ooze. My sister's soul, like mine, must still be lingering somewhere. But where? Now, there were no such things as bodies for us. Presumably, physical proximity was no longer necessary for the two of us to meet. But without bodies, how would we know each other? Would I still recognize my sister as a shadow? My body continued to putrefy. More and more mayflies crowded inside my open wounds. Gadflies crawled slowly over my lips and eyelids, rubbing their dark, slender legs together. Around the time when the day grew dark and beams of orange light strafed down through the crowns of the oaks, exhausted with wondering where my sister might be, my thoughts turned instead to them, to the person who had killed me, and the one who had killed her. Where were they right now? Even if they hadn't died, they would still have souls. So surely if I bent all my thought on the idea of them, I would be able to sense them, touch them. I wanted to shuck off my body as a snake sheds its skin. I wanted to sever the pure strength, the force thin and taut as a spider's web, dilating and contracting from the inert lump of rotting flesh. I wanted to be free to fly wherever they were and to demand of them, why did you kill me? Why did you kill my sister? What did you do to her? Absolutely fascinating questions about meaning and purpose projected onto a victim. And then the chapters involve different characters, what went on then and what went on afterwards. Some are older, some are younger. And then there's one towards the end that is especially moving, about a survivor, female survivor. The thread of life is as tough as an ox tendon. So even after I lost you, it had to go on. I had to make myself eat, make myself work, forcing each day down like a mouthful of cold rice, even it stuck in my throat. I'd known about the meetings for bereaved families for some time, of course, but I'd never shown my face there. When I eventually did go, it was because I'd received a phone call from a woman calling herself their representative. Our military thug of a president is coming here to Guangzhou, she's told me. The butcher dares to set foot in our city. When your spilled blood had barely had time to dry. My sleep was shallow and fitful at the best of times. But the news plunged me into a fresh bout of insomnia. Your father was equally disturbed, and what with his delicate constitution and gentle nature, I thought it best to have him stay at home while I went to the meeting alone. So I went along to the home of the organizer, who ran a rice shop, introduced myself to the other women, and stayed there until late at night making banners and pickets. Finally, the host decided that we should each go back home, as whatever we didn't have enough of yet could be made just as well there. We shook hands when we said goodbye. We were like scarecrows, shells stuffed with nothing but straw. Our farewells were as hollow as our eyes. I wasn't frightened. Death would have been welcome at that point, so what could there possibly have been to fear? When we met up again the next day to wait for the butcher's convoy, we were each wearing white mourning clothes. The day had hardly got started when the bastard really did show up. Our opportunity had come to hurl slogans like stones with one voice, and all hell broke loose. We went into a frenzy of howling and fainting, tugging at our hair and tearing at our clothes. No sooner had we rolled out our banners than they were snatched away, and the whole lot of us were handed off to the police station, hauled off to the police station. We were just sitting there in a daze, and some young people were brought in, and they'd formed their own association of the wounded, and had been demonstrating at a different spot along the convoy's route. Their faces were sullen when they filled in until they saw us there. Even the mothers are here too, one youth wailed, tears streaming down his face. What crime have they committed? In that instant, everything inside my head got blanked out. It was blindingly white, as though the whole world had been painted white. I hitched up my torn skirt and clambered up onto the table. My voice sounded so much smaller than usual. That's right, I stammered. What crime have I committed? I jumped down, dashed over to the desk opposite, and scrambled up before anyone had time to blink. The hem of my white skirt fluttered at my ankles. There was a photo of the murderer hanging on the wall. I pulled it down and smashed the glass with my foot. Something splattered across my face, tears or maybe blood. The blood kept spurting from my foot, so the policeman had to take me off to hospital. Your father came to the emergency department after they'd let him know I was there. While the nurse removed the shards of glass from my foot and bandaged the wound, I asked him to do me a favor. Please go home and look in my wardrobe. There's a banner I made last night but didn't bring with me today. Around sunset that same day, I hobbled up the stairs which had led out of the hospital roof, leaning on your father's shoulder for support. I steadied myself against the railing, unfurled the banner, and screamed, "Chun Du Huan, you murdered my son. Let's tear that bloodthirsty butcher to pieces." I carried on screaming until the police came charging up the emergency stairs, seized hold of me, carried me back down to one of the wards, and bundled me into bed. We met up frequently after that, determined to carry on the fight. Each time we mothers parted, we clasped hands and brushed shoulders, peering into each other's eyes as we made arrangements to meet again. We even had a whip round so that those who were having trouble making ends meet could afford to hire a bus to go to a meeting in Seoul. One time, some good-for-nothing bastards chucked a smoke grenade inside our bus, and one of us collapsed, choking. When the riot police arrested us and forced us into one of those vans with chicken wire over the windows, they pulled over to a secluded spot by the highway and made one of us get out, and then drove on for a while before evicting someone else. Those bastards made sure we were all well scattered. I trailed along the side of the road for what felt like an age, completely disoriented. I hadn't the faintest clue where I was, until I finally stumbled across one of the other women. Her lips tinged blue like mine, and we chafed each other's numbed hands. We made a firm pact to carry on the fight until the end. So it is incredible literature, translated from the Korean. The text we have today is so terse. It's in a way what isn't said is as important, if not more so, than what is said. And Midrash is about the art of trying to fill in some of the gaps. And the rabbis were free to look elsewhere, even to contradict each other. And so in my humble attempt, I look into modern literature as to the turmoil that may have happened in many other places from the viewpoint of victim, mourner, and the ultimate truth that if you believe in something enough, you carry on and you find each other, and that somehow alleviates sometimes the aloneness, the loneliness.
Hi. So we are going to perform a song in Yiddish. It was originally a song in Catalan that was written under General Franco, and it's since been translated into Arabic, into Polish. It's been used in various trade union movements in Poland and also during the uprising in Tunisia. And a few years ago it was translated into Yiddish, and it's now very widely sung in Yiddish. So the song is called Der Joch, which is the yoke. And it's it lends itself very well to a Yiddish folk song, because a lot of Yiddish folk songs are conversations between members of different generations in the same family. So this is a conversation between a grandfather and a grandson. And the grandfather is telling the grandson about the yoke that's on our backs, and that it won't let us move and it won't let us walk. And in the chorus he says, but together we can remove it, we can take it off, whether it takes a year, whether it takes a day, or whether it takes a week. And this is my favourite line in any song ever. As ich soll ziehen in der Mitte und du sollst ziehen in der Seite. If you pull from the middle and I pull from the side. and will dismantle the yoke, and we'll all be free. And in the last verse, the grandson is talking and saying that his grandfather is no longer here. The wind carried him away, the wind carried his voice away. But he sees new young people walking by, and he offers his song to them, the same one that his grandfather taught him.
Wir seien gestanden in Zweien, es hat noch nicht getan. A Viertel vorbei und a Boden, und ich hab dem Segen gesagt, sie setzt du auf unsere Rücken, dem schweren, eisernen Joch. Kann man nicht gehen, nicht fliegen, kriegt man a bisschen a Stoch. Zusammen können wir a Reus, so sein a Show, a Tag a Woch. Wird schon fallen, 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 denn sie folgt der alte Joch. Als ich soll ziehen in der Wind, und du sollst ziehen in der Zeit, wird schon fallen, 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 der Mord werden mir doch frei. Schon lange Jahren stehen mir a Rockettrieb von dem Brunnen. Es nimmt sich mein Keuer, es wird als Schwerde Jahr. Weil Gott zerfolgt und verschafft, der Gott halt wie ein Zwang. Nur wenn ich halt schon beim Fallen, hör ich dem Segensgesang. Zusammen können wir a Reus, soll sein a Show, a Tag a Woch. Wird schon fallen, 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 der zerfeuerte alte Joch. Als ich soll ziehen in der Miet, und du sollst ziehen in der Zeit, wird schon fallen, 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 der wird werden mir befreien. Der Seder ist schon lange weg, ne hält schon nicht sein Kopf. Es hat ihm a Weg getrogen a Wind, nur ich steh da wie am Mond. Es gehen neue Jünglich vorbei, streck ich zu sehen die Hand und sing für sie dem Segenslied, nur ich der gelernt, was hat mich gelernt. Zusammen können wir a Reus, soll sein a Show, a Tag a Woch. Wird schon fallen, 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 der zerfällte alte Joch. Als ich soll ziehen in der Wind, und du sollst ziehen in der Zeit, wird schon fallen, 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 der wird werden mir befreit. Ja, nein, 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 ja, nein, 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 ja, nein, 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 ja, nein, nein, nein,
Vielen Dank, meinen Katholiken. And we just keep chipping away. So let's now turn over to page 520 and let's stand for the Alleluia, the prayer of hope. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, atet gedula v'yotzer b'reshit, asher sam chalkenu v'yached et shemai, for Aleinu l'hamli, malchut.
Yeah.
Yoteh Shemayim v'Yosed Aretz, Moshav Yekaro b'Shemayim v'Ma'al, U'Shchinatu Zo b'Govhei Meromim, Hu Eloheinu Ein Od, Emet Malkeinu Efes Sulato, Kakatu B'Torato, Ki Aleta Hayom v'Hashevota El Levavecha, Ki Adonai Hu Elohim b'Shemayim v'Ma'al, L'Haaretz Mitachat Ein Od. Trusting in you, eternal God, we hope soon to behold the glory of your might, when false gods will vanish from our hearts and idolatry cease forever. Help us perfect the world by bringing it under your unchallenged rule. When all will invoke your name, relinquish evil, and turn to you alone, may all who dwell on earth come to know that to you every knee must bend and every tongue swear loyalty. Before you let them humble themselves, and to your glorious name let them give honor. Let all submit to your sovereign rule. May that time come soon and last forever. For ultimate sovereignty is yours, and to all eternity will reign in glory. As it is written, the Eternal One shall reign forever. It is hard to feel serene when our world is not complete, when those who once brought wholeness to our life have gone. On this Shabbat, we remember our loved ones. Harry, we wish you strength as you remember your dear friend Joe Fash. And Maria, we wish you strength in your life as you remember your father-in-law, Leslie Landau. And Eve, we wish you strength and long life as you remember your father, Bernard Millett. And we remember Marcia Pastor and Trudy Stein. And would anyone wish to mention the name of a loved one or friend? Yet in the emptiness their passing leaves behind, we are not alone. For we have the companionship of the living, and even our loved ones who have died live on in our hearts, for what they were is part of what we have become. We honor them best when we live as they would wish, responsibly, happily, even in the shadow of our loss, and so draw closer to the source of life, in whom every life finds meaning, purpose, and hope. Yitkadal yitkadash shamei rabbah, va'allah divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon, v'chayei l'chol beit Yisrael, v'galav izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah v'vorach le'olam u'lamei l'mayam. Yitzvarach v'yishtabach v'yitfar v'termam v'naseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei v'kudashah b'richu. Le'ela v'nkol b'rchata v'ashirata. Dush l'chata v'nechamata. V'nam b'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabbah min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'yol kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'broma. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'yol kol Yisrael. V'yol kol b'nei Adam. Amen. Please be seated. And we have a Don Olam, and we don't have to wait even though we're early because we have our food bank kiddush just next door.
Adon Olam Hashem Olam, B'terem kol Yisrael nivra. Azai melech shemo nikra, ve'yacharei tichvas hakol va'ado yimloch nora, v'hu haya v'hu harei, v'hu yiyeh v'tifara. Adonai li v'lo ira. Ve'ya'adu afiduchi ve'etzi sham ve'alira ve'imrochi gavi'ati. Adonai li v'lo ira.
Shabbat Shalom. And reflecting on all the turmoil we've discussed today, I think one reaction is to feel gratitude as to how privileged we are. Our society is far from perfect, but we are relatively very safe. And I would argue that each of us has a responsibility in our own way to do whatever we can not to let those good things, that safety, that privilege slip away, especially in the coming months. Shabbat
Sorry,
We're going to bring the Kiddush in here because it might be stuffy in that little room.
Fantastic, isn't she?
Yeah, no, it is like that.
Yeah, all good, thank you.
It's coming in here. How about, can someone bring in some change?
I double the price. I mean, it was £30 and now it's over $1. But not many people have it in stock, so I should say the answer, why I say social media, like if it was that was very good. That was very good. So I think I work with the Germans.
The tune is Catalan, like the tune is from the Catalan original. Right.
Yeah, I know. And so how long have you been coming here for? Oh my God, probably before you were born. We got married in 1994.
Yeah, it's very close.
Yes, I was born in 95.
Yeah, I get that one. Yeah. And that's the sketch by
Oh yeah, no. Oh, soon. It might be this week. I don't
My parents were all the way up like on our front of our house. I had to go in the doorway so we went to this before we drink it.
Joseph.
Yes.
Maria.
V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat l'doratam berit olam v'ni u'ven b'nei Yisrael od divrei olam Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei b'ri ha'gafen
Not your favourite tipple.
Oh, it's lovely.
I don't know that.
It's something we like to complain about.
I know, it's nice, yes. Instead of complaining about the weather, complain about the weather. That's the drink.
It's wine, Jim, but not as we know it.
No, quite so.
Everybody wine at once.
Yeah, wine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
On the 22nd of June, can I just say one little thing? On the 22nd of June, there's a day of music at Northwood and Pinner Synagogue, just up down that line, and it'll be pretty good. It's all day, so there's a morning service, there's also afternoon sessions and in the evening concerts, all forms of Jewish music. So if people are interested. 22nd, fun? It'll be 22nd of June at Northwood and Pinner Liberal. I mean, the details are all on the Liberal Judaism website, but I'll be there for at least some of the day. I really recommend it. It'll be really interesting, so it's not too far away.
Yeah?
Joseph. Jazz. Good name, nice to meet you. What's your name? Naomi. Nice to meet you.
Jazz. Naomi. Nice to meet you. Rachel. Yeah. You regularly do. First
My hands are
No, I study abroad right now. So I used to be
You don't know us. We know each other for a long time. Yeah.
Hello, Maria.
Oh, good.
No idea. Maybe next
Harry, that's me. Go.
Lovely. Very
Yeah, hopefully in London.
I knew there was one in Edgewood was on too. South Harrow.
Musical time.
Assuming like that.
There was a legacy like another band.
Jesus changed the words to kind of meaning.
Yeah, I don't know. So my friend Isaac is going to be the